Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you well-informed and fast.
That's right.
And today, we are tackling a question that has just lit up the internet, sparked endless debates, divided friend groups even.
Oh, definitely.
Was Squid Game Season 3 actually bad?
Yeah, that's the big one everyone's asking.
By the end of this deep dive, we want you to not just have an opinion, but to really understand the intricate layers, the paradox behind why this global phenomenon...
And it was a phenomenon again.
Absolutely. Why, despite shattering viewership records, it left a pretty significant chunk of its fan base feeling, well, profoundly disappointed.
Yeah, conflicted is putting it mildly sometimes.
We've pulled from everything, official statements, tons of critical reviews, those passionate fan theories on places like Reddit, even academic analyses.
A whole stack of sources.
Exactly. To bring you the full, nuanced picture, our mission, as always, is to distill the key insights, give you a truly comprehensive understanding.
And hopefully some clarity.
Right, clarity on the complex tapestry of its reception and, the narrative choices they made.
It really is a fascinating contradiction, isn't it?
Totally.
Because on one hand, you have a show that, like you said, didn't just break records, it absolutely obliterated them. Squid Game Season 3, it debuted at #1 in, 93 countries?
93. That's incredible.
And racked up over 60 million views in just the first 3 days.
Wow.
And that's building on Season 2, which also hit #1 everywhere.
Right.
And of course, Season 1, Netflix's most watched show ever by minutes watched. The legacy is huge.
So commercially a monster hit, no question.
And critically, too, it wasn't a dud. It earned a, very respectable 79% positive score from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, 78%.
Yeah, based on 58 reviews. And the consensus note talked about its ruthlessness that drives creator Hwang Dong-hyuk's themes home.
So critics saw the artistic intent there.
Seems like it. Metacritic gave it a 66 out of 100, which indicates generally favorable reviews. And even our own internal reviewer gave it 5 stars, praising pulse-pounding games, heartbreaking character moments, phenomenal performances, and a storyline utterly unafraid to take huge, bold swings.
Okay, so on paper, it sounds like just an undeniable triumph. You'd expect everyone to love it, right?
You'd think.
But then you pivot. You look at the audience reception, and whoa, it's like a completely different story.
Night and day, almost.
News outlets were calling it mixed, distinctly mixed. User reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, split right down the middle. Half positive, half negative, roughly.
Wait, that 50-50 split is telling.
And if you dare to venture into, the Reddit threads, oh my goodness.
Well, I saw some of those, yeah.
Comments like absolutely terrible, disappointing, underwhelming, some really strong reactions.
Visceral, yeah.
It honestly felt like 2 completely different shows were released. So, for you, our listener, what does this huge divergence mean? Why did a season that was objectively so successful on so many levels provoke such a, fervent and often negative reaction from its core audience?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's the paradox.
It really is.
And what's truly fascinating here is how this kind of split often happens when a creator, especially one with such a strong vision like Hwang Dong-hyuk,
right,
takes these really bold, maybe unexpected narrative turns, especially with characters the audience feels they know, characters they've invested in deeply over multiple seasons.
Like Gi-hun?
Exactly. The critique isn't just about, was it good entertainment? It's deeper. It's about a perceived, maybe, breach of an unwritten contract between the storyteller and the audience.
Oh, interesting. Like expectations.
Yeah, expectations built on character development, on narrative payoff, thematic consistency, things like that.
Okay.
So let's really dig into some of the core complaints, the main grievances from the fandom, because they really shine a light on this disconnect.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because at the heart of so much of the disappointment, it seems, were the character arcs, particularly Gi-hun, player 456, and Detective Jun-ho.
The 2 pillars, really.
Right, so given everything Gi-hun went through in Season 1, how he ended Season 2, seeming changed, having this new purpose, how did his evolution in Season 3 just miss the mark so badly for so many people? What was the disconnect there?
It's such a critical question because Gi-hun was the emotional anchor, right?
Absolutely.
And in Season 3, he became, in the eyes of many viewers, kind of one-note obsessive.
Obsessive? How so?
He went back into the games, not like before, driven by debt or desperation,
Right.
but as this man just consumed by this singular, almost nihilistic drive to destroy the game from the inside.
So a very different motivation.
Very different. And critics and fans use phrases like he was finding a reason to die or practically finding a reason to die for a cause.
Wow, that's dark.
And the big critique was that Gi-hun, despite everything he'd seen, all the betrayals, he seemed to have learned nothing from the past seasons about trust, about the futility maybe of one person trying to take down this massive faceless system.
So his growth felt stalled, or even like it went backwards.
Precisely. That's what grated on people. His eventual self-sacrifice, which the creator, Hwang, explicitly said was meant as this profound message about, not just pursuing self-interest.
Right, for the next generation, the baby.
Yes, exactly. Protecting the next generation, symbolized by the baby. But for many fans, that sacrifice just felt like a martyrdom plot that wouldn't achieve anything.
Like, what was the point?
Yeah. Pointless was a word used a lot. It made the whole show feel that way to some. Audiences, having followed him through hell and back, they largely expected, well, maybe a redemption arc or a revenge arc.
Something more triumphant.
Maybe. Something more definitive. Glorifying, perhaps. Where he did bring down the system or at least escape to fight another day,
Yeah, a sense of victory.
Instead, they got this ending that felt bleak, nihilistic, kind of circular, this feeling that the games will go on as if nothing happened.
Oof. That's rough after 3 seasons.
It is. And this clash, right, between the audience's desire for maybe a more heroic resolution and the creator's intent to deliver this stark, critical message about society. That's a classic friction point in long stories.
That's a huge gap between intent and reception. It sounds like Gi-hun's noble sacrifice, while maybe profound to the creator, just landed as frustrating, even futile for a big part of the audience.
Yeah, very much so.
And what about Jun-ho, the detective? His story also got a lot of flack for being underused, right?
Oh, absolutely. Useless and botched were words thrown around frequently and quite emphatically regarding his storyline.
Really? Useless?
Yeah. Fans felt it was a wasted good actor and character with very little backstory, just a massive oversight. The core frustration, I think, was this almost obsessive desire for more depth in his relationship with his brother.
The front man, Hwang Dong-hyuk.
Exactly. The constant feedback was no closure, not even a conversation, nothing between the two brothers.
But that central mystery wasn't resolved.
Not satisfactorily for many, even though Jun-ho did a lot. He infiltrated the place, got intel, escaped with the Coast Guard, rescued player 246.
Right, he wasn't inactive.
No, but his personal mission, finding his brother, understanding why, that felt largely unresolved. The impact of rescuing 246, who then reunites with his daughter, which is poignant, that was often overshadowed by the lack of payoff for his own core motivation. It really shows how invested people were in the personal stakes,
Definitely. And when those stakes aren't paid off, it leads to disappointment, even if other plot points get tied up.
Exactly.
Okay, and speaking of things that maybe broke immersion or felt off, let's talk about the baby plotline. That seemed to be a real flashpoint.
Oh, yes. This is where a narrative choice, one the creator explicitly said was meant to create emotional stakes for Gi-hun, symbolize the future.
Right.
It just ended up alienating a huge chunk of the audience because it felt so contrived, so illogical within the world they'd built. Well, the infant born to player 222, Jun-ho, widely criticized, called a cheap tactic to get us to care. A plot convenience. You saw phrases like CGI baby and ridiculous birth constantly, especially given the harsh, controlled setting of the games.
And wasn't there also a point about the game's own rules? Like, the baby couldn't consent.
Absolutely. That was a huge point of contention. Viewers immediately flagged the contradiction. The whole premise, supposedly, is that players choose to join, driven by desperation.
Right, they signed the waiver.
Exactly. A baby cannot willingly join. It goes against the core logic. So when the baby was declared player 222 after Jun-ho died in the jump rope game, and then became the focus of Gi-hun's final sacrifice, it just felt unearned and forced to many. It kind of undermined the integrity of the game's own rules.
Pushed suspension of disbelief too far.
Way too far for a lot of people, especially for a show that usually prides itself on its internal consistency, even with the crazy premise. It felt like emotional manipulation, not genuine connection.
Yeah, I could see how that would rub people the wrong way. Feeling emotionally shortchanged, breaking immersion. Okay, another recurring complaint. One that actually goes back to season 1. The VIPs.
Yeah, the VIPs.
Why were they still such a cringe factor, as people put it, in Season 3? And what impact did that have?
Yeah, they continued to be a major sore spot, maybe even more so because it was a known issue, right?
People hoped they'd fix it.
Exactly. They were pretty much universally slammed again. Cringeworthy. Criticisms hitting the atrocious acting, the unnecessary and cheesy lines.
Dang old problems.
Pretty much. And while one source pointed out the cast did include, like, an Asian lady and a Spanish speaker this time.
Okay, so slightly more diverse casting.
Slightly, but they were still often perceived as all white by viewers. More importantly, though, the performances were consistently called out as just bad. Jarringly bad.
Not just the representation, but the quality.
Right. It wasn't just about who they were, but how they were portrayed. And because it was a known issue from Season 1, its persistence in Season 3 just amplified the disappointment.
Felt like they weren't listening.
Either that, or they just couldn't figure out how to make these characters feel real within the brutal context of the games. And when your villains, the puppet masters pulling the strings, sound like they're in a bad high school play,
Yeah.
it just completely undermines the tension, the gravitas. It pulls you right out of the story.
Definitely kills the mood.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the ending itself. Beyond just Gi-hun's arc, you mentioned comments saying the finale was terrible, didn't end in a glorifying way, made the whole show feel pointless.
Yeah, the overall conclusion.
So what does this all mean? How did the creative vision for the very end diverge so sharply from what so many viewers wanted?
Well, it's interesting. Hwang Dong-hyuk apparently hadn't initially planned for Gi-hun to die. Yeah, but he changed the ending. He felt it was necessary to bring both the game and Gi-hun's journey to a close with that message of self-sacrifice for the future generation.
So a deliberate, artistic, philosophical choice.
Very deliberate. But it clashed hard with audience expectations. As we talked about, viewers wanted that clear redemption or revenge, a definitive end where Gi-hun dismantled things, or at least pointed towards an end.
Right.
Instead, his sacrifice led to this feeling that the games will go on, making his efforts seem futile to many. This bleak, nihilistic vibe where Gi-hun's good intentions gradually crumble.
Yeah.
That was Hwang's point. It was his critique of capitalism, showing how the brutal competitive game makes people do anything, how the wealthy manipulate the poor for entertainment.
The core theme.
The absolute core theme. But for many viewers, that powerful message came at the expense of narrative satisfaction. It felt like a dead end, robbing them of catharsis after 3 seasons of investment.
And the final confrontation itself, the last game,
Right.
was also criticized for lacking emotional stakes.
Absolutely. The climax of Season 3, that Squid Game in the sky, was widely seen as contrived, lacking the raw punch of Season 1's Gi-hun versus Sang-woo fight.
Which was incredibly personal and intense.
Exactly. Here, Gi-hun was pitted against characters he barely talked to. 5 of them apparently didn't even get names.
Oh, wow. Hard to invest in that.
Right. Made it tough for the audience to feel connected or invested in who lived or died. And the whole sequence with the button, Gi-hun suicide. Some fans used really strong language, calling it incredibly unintelligent, predictable.
Ouch.
Yeah. Felt less like a shock, more like just the inevitable bleak conclusion. So you put it all together. Unsatisfying end for the hero, the controversial baby plot device, the still cringy VIPs, a weak final climax.
Yeah.
It all piled up to create this widespread audience disappointment, even while the show was breaking streaming records and getting decent reviews, just this profound dissonance.
A successful show that just couldn't quite stick the landing emotionally for its core fan base.
That seems to be the crux of it.
It really sounds like a classic case where artistic vision and audience expectation just fundamentally didn't align,
Yeah.
leading to this huge rift in how it was received. It's that tension inherent in popular storytelling, isn't it? How much freedom can a creator take before they alienate the audience?
It's a very fine line, and it raises that question for any creator. When does a bold artistic choice cross over into just frustrating or undermining the audience's emotional investment?
Right.
In Squid Game's case, it seems Hwang prioritized his theme, his message, over maybe a more traditionally satisfying resolution. And that led to this very clear split.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit now. Let's
Yeah.
dive into the actual narrative and production details of Season 3. Because understanding what actually happened is key to grasping why people reacted the way they did.
Definitely need the context.
So, Squid Game Season 3 premiered globally June 27th, 2025. 6 episodes. Confirmed as the final season, wrapping up this chapter. But what's fascinating, something the creator revealed, is that Seasons 2 and 3 were originally conceived as one longer season.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently it was just too long, so they split it. Which means Season 3 really just picks up right where Season 2 left off, continuing that single arc.
Right, that makes sense. It felt like a direct continuation. And to understand that narrative, we really need to track the key characters' fates.
Let's start with Gi-hun, player 456. We've talked about the reaction, but what actually happened to him in the plot?
Okay, so as we discussed, he went back in, driven by this mission to dismantle the games from within.
Right, the obsessive goal.
His attempts at mutiny, though, crushed. He ends up captured, basically stripped of all agency, and delivered in a box to the player quarters.
Wow, quite the low point.
Yeah, a really stark image setting this tone of flat resolution, maybe even defeat. And his journey, as we know, ends with that self-sacrifice in the final game.
Throwing himself off the edge.
Right, declaring humans, not horses.
A powerful statement trying to reclaim humanity from the whole spectacle.
And that was Hwang's message about needing collective good over self-interest. Exactly. That was the intended philosophical endpoint. Bleak, maybe, but deliberate.
Okay, a clear, if maybe tough to swallow, ending for Gi-hun. What about the others? Jun-ho, the detective, and his brother, the frontman.
Okay, Jun-ho. He kept searching for his brother. He successfully infiltrated the facility again, got crucial intel.
But no big confrontation.
No big emotional confrontation, which disappointed people. But he did escape with the Coast Guard. Importantly, after rescuing player 246, the artist, Young-sik.
Okay, so he had a successful mission in that sense.
Yes. And as for the front man, Hwang Dong-hyuk, the sources say his backstory was supposed to be explored more in Season 3.
Ah, so they planned it.
Planned to reveal a crucial event that solidified his path. We saw him continue running the games, ruthlessly efficient as ever, but then there's that twist.
Yeah.
He's the one who ultimately rescues the baby, and then later leaves it with Jun-ho.
Whoa, okay. That adds a layer. Maybe some lingering humanity.
Perhaps. It definitely complicates him, which is interesting.
And there were other threads tied up too, right? The Pink Guard, No-Will, player 246, Sae-byuk's brother.
Yes, several important side stories got resolution. No-Il, the sympathetic Pink Guard, she actually pulls off this daring rescue.
For player 246?
Yeah, Gi-young-suk, the artist with the sick daughter, No-Il devises this whole plan, kills other guards, her superior, burns files.
Wow, she went all out.
All out, and successfully gets Gi-young-suk off the island.
He reunites with his daughter.
He does, rescued by No-Il and Jun-ho, so a moment of actual hope there.
That's good to hear.
And another bit of emotional closure. Sae-byuk's younger brother, Cheol, from Season 1.
Yeah.
He reunites with his North Korean mother, fulfilling Sae-byuk's dream.
Oh, that's actually really moving. Nice touch.
Yeah, a poignant full circle moment for her character. And one final twist related to Gi-hun.
The one.
His winnings from Season 1, remember, left at the motel,
Yeah.
confirmed, the frontman took it, deposited it, and then flew to L.A.
Los Angeles.
Well,
Why?
to deliver the money and Gi-hun's player 456 uniform directly to Gi-hun's daughter, Ga-young, telling her her father was dead.
Oh my God. That's chilling. The game's reach extending even there.
Exactly. Manipulation even outside the arena walls.
Okay, so quite a bit of resolution, actually, even if Gi-hun's was the most debated. Let's talk about the new horrors. The games themselves in Season 3.
Right, the games. Always creative, always brutal. First up was hide and seek, but with a twist.
Even knives, I read that.
Yeah, hide and seek with knives. Players split. Red team armed, had to kill opponents. Blue team just had to survive 30 minutes, find keys to hide.
Instant confrontation.
Exactly. Designed for immediate violence. And this is where we saw Gi-hun kill player 388, Dae-ho, in that fit of rage, showing his darker mindset. And more disturbingly, player 333, Minungi, killed player 120 after they'd both already passed the game.
Just casual cruelty.
Yeah, highlighting that dehumanization. And of course, this was the game where player 222, Jun-hee, gave birth.
Right, the polarizing moment. What a horrifying setting for that.
Unbelievably tense. Hiding, being hunted while that is happening.
Okay, and then the jump rope game. Teased at the end of Season 2. What made that one so controversial, besides just being dangerous?
Right, the jump rope game. Crossing a narrow bridge, jumping over this huge swinging rope. Misstep, you fall. Classic Squid Game tension.
Physical and psychological.
Totally. But the real controversy wasn't the mechanics, it was the baby.
The VIPs let the baby participate.
Unbelievably, yes. In their absolute callousness, they included the infant. Gi-hun desperately manages to carry the baby safely across.
Okay.
But Jun-hee, the mother, injured, weakened. She jumps to her death to save the baby.
Oh, God.
And then, The truly unsettling move. The frontman declares the infant is now player 222.
Enrolling a newborn in the death game.
Effectively, yes, reinforcing that dark theme of innocence just consumed by the system. The sheer cruelty, the absurdity, it pushed a lot of viewers over the edge.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why. That's taking a kid's game to a truly repugnant place. And finally, the last game. The one that led to the controversial end.
The final game, Squid Game in the Sky, took place on this towering structure shaped like the circle, triangle, square logo.
Iconic shapes.
And the objective, grim, push someone else off to their death.
Ultimate survival through betrayal.
Exactly. And here's where that criticized twist happens. Myung-gi, revealed as the baby's father.
Player 333, the one who killed someone needlessly.
That's the one. He teams up with Gi-hun against the others, but it's shaky. Myung-gi eventually tries to win by throwing the baby off.
What?
Yeah. But Gi-hun, in this final moral stand, tricks Myung-gi, leading to Myung-gi falling instead.
Okay, so Gi-hun saves the baby from him.
He does, which leaves just Gi-hun and the baby. And that's when he makes his choice. Sacrifices himself, throws himself off, saying humans, not horses.
Denying the VIPs their final spectacle.
That was the intent, that final defiant act. The creator's big statement on human value versus exploitation, however debated it was.
Wow. Okay, beyond the sheer brutality, Squid Game is always praised for its incredible artistic design, that symbolism, using innocent settings for dark purposes. How did Season 3 continue that?
Oh, absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the aesthetics in Squid Game are never just background, they're tools.
Right.
They hint at the psychology, how innocence gets twisted into this brutal, endless cycle. Season 3's pentathlon arena was a perfect example.
The school setting one?
Yeah, designed to look like a school. Chalkboards, colorful flags from all nations, like a twisted Olympics. A rainbow track.
It's almost cheerful.
Almost. But despite slogans about strength and vigor, the whole space just screamed fierce competition, crushing pressure, and that circular track, no clear start or end.
Symbolizing
the endless competition, infinite conflict, and suffering of the Squid Game world. The players trapped in this rigged system. The irony of a school, a place of growth, becoming an arena of death. Powerful visual critique.
Definitely. And what about the Mingle Arena? That sounded more personal.
Yeah. The Mingle Arena was really poignant. It was meant to reflect the frontman's own memories, his imagination, crafted like this bittersweet amusement park.
With a carousel.
Yeah, a carousel at its heart, symbolizing maybe a place he wanted to go with family he lost, adds this tragic layer to him and to the games she runs.
So even the fun setting has this deep sadness underneath.
Exactly. The circular stage, multiple doors, the carousel. The contrast between that playful aesthetic, a place of potential joy, and the deadly games played there just powerfully heightens the critique. Innocence corrupted, the cost of being swallowed by the game.
It shows how much thought went into the visual storytelling, even beyond the plot points.
Absolutely. These environments evoke really complex emotions.
And did we see other familiar props and settings return?
Yeah.
Maintaining that iconic Squid Game look?
Oh, yeah. They definitely leveraged that visual language. We saw Didakji, Dalgona, those traditional Korean games that evoke nostalgia.
But used lethally.
Right, that sharp contrast. The red light, green light doll, Youngie. She was back.
Still creepy.
Still creepy. And now she had a boyfriend doll, Cheol-soo.
Oh, great. Double the creepiness.
Basically. Continuing that unsettling fusion of childhood and horror. And the maze staircase, that visually striking Escher-like element, still there.
Still a signature look.
Yeah. It all underscores how the show uses familiar, even comforting images to deliver its really brutal commentary. The visuals are almost a character themselves.
That exploration of the visuals really adds depth, even if the narrative choices were divisive. Okay, let's zoom out now. Broader themes. Squid Game's critique, and what this all means for the future of the franchise.
Right, because at its core, season 1 through 3, it's consistently been this biting critique of capitalism, of inequality.
And this hasn't changed.
No. Hwang's intention was always to show how good intentions crumble under systemic pressure, desperation, how the brutal competitive game of modern capitalism makes people do anything for money.
Highlighting the power imbalance.
Exactly. How the wealthy manipulate the lives of the poor for their entertainment, reducing people to commodities. It's blunt, it's the foundation.
And it drew on real-world events, too, didn't it? Giving it that grounding.
Very much so, which makes the message hit harder. Gi-hun's backstory. Directly inspired by the 2009 Sanyong motor strike in Korea.
Tell us about that again.
A really devastating event. mass layoffs, a 77-day factory occupation, violent clashes with police. The aftermath was tragic. Injuries, legal battles, financial ruin, and sadly, many deaths from suicide and stress among the workers and families.
Ah, that's horrific.
It really highlights the brutal realities and dehumanizing effects of poverty the show depicts. Some also draw parallels to the Brothers' Home incident,
What was that?
another horrific Korean scandal, a facility where thousands of so-called vagrants, orphans, disabled, homeless were basically kidnapped, abused, forced into labor for decades, often for profit, sometimes for the perverse entertainment of powerful visitors.
Unbelievable.
While the show changes entertainment to the games, that underlying critique of exploitation, dehumanization, it resonates chillingly. These inspirations give the show a depth beyond just fiction.
It certainly makes the themes of inequality, morality, survival feel incredibly stark, forces you to think. And Squid Game isn't just a show, it's part of this huge global thing. Hallyu, the Korean way.
Absolutely, a massive part of it.
How has Squid Game played into that ongoing evolution of K-culture?
It's really a prime example of Hallyu 3.0 or 4.0. The wave keeps evolving, moving beyond just K-pop and dramas to films, products, fashion, food, everything.
Whole cultural export.
Totally. And platforms like Netflix, the OTT services, they've been revolutionary, shifting consumption from scheduled TV to on-demand globally.
Making it accessible everywhere instantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Netflix saw the potential early, investing billions in South Korean content. That investment has been crucial in cementing Korea's status as a cultural powerhouse. It creates this feedback loop. Great content attracts investment, fuels more great content.
It wasn't just the content of the platform, but the marketing, the virality was huge too, right?
Yeah. Oh, massive. The reach wasn't just organic, it was amplified by these really clever, immersive marketing campaigns. The red jumpsuits, the green tracksuits everywhere.
You couldn't escape it.
Right. And social media virality was off the charts, memes, TikToks recreating games. It became the shared global language almost overnight. And crucially, Netflix invested in good subtitles and dubs in many languages. That's key. Ensuring cultural nuances, emotions, complex dialogue got across accurately.
Just people everywhere could connect.
Deeply connect. It sparked global conversations about capitalism, debt, morality, transcending language. It became more than a show. It was a cultural moment, a collective experience.
So given all that impact, what is next for Squid Game? Season
Yeah.
3 was the final season. Gi-hun's story ended.
Yeah.
But the sources strongly hint there's more to come.
That's a key takeaway, yeah.
Right.
While Gi-hun's sacrifice closed the Korean Games chapter, controversially,
Yeah.
the Season 3 finale very strongly implies the games are much bigger. Global.
How so?
That pivotal scene at the end, the front man, he's in downtown Los Angeles.
No.
Yeah. And he sees an American recruiter, played by Kate Blanchett, in this quick cameo,
Kate Blanchett, wow.
playing Dokji with a homeless man. It's not just a fun cameo. It's a clear signal. International expansion. The game isn't just in Korea, it's global, exploiting the desperate everywhere.
So the games continue, just elsewhere.
That's the strong implication. It leaves the door wide open for future stories, massively expanding the universe.
So not the end of the Squid Game universe, just the end of maybe the Korean chapter we followed.
Exactly. Hwang Dong-hyuk himself has hinted at possibility of spin-offs, maybe prequels about the game's origins, or the frontman's backstory, which people really wanted.
Right.
Netflix is clearly invested in keeping this franchise going, especially as other big ones like Stranger Things wrap up. Squid Game is a huge opportunity.
Which raises a big question for you, the listener. With the games now global, the cycle continuing,
Yeah.
does an American Squid Game, or one set elsewhere, satisfy that desire for resolution? Can it deliver the same critique?
Or does it risk diluting the original's unique identity and message? It's a fascinating question.
It really is. This has truly been a deep dive into Squid Game Season 3. We've explored how it smashed records, got critical praise.
Well, simultaneously frustrating and disappointing so many dedicated fans.
Right. The ambitious narrative choices, Gi-hun's end, the baby plot created this undeniable, stark divide. A real case study in that complex relationship between art, narrative, and audience expectation.
And the creator clearly aimed for that harsh, uncompromising message about society capitalism, even if it meant a bleak end for the hero.
Yeah.
With the games now global, the exploitation cycle unbroken, it forces us to confront some pretty uncomfortable truths about our world.
So what stands out to you most from this deep dive? How does the reaction to Squid Game Season 3 reflect our broader conversations about art, morality, and maybe that desire for neat resolutions in a messy world? We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us what you think.
And just quickly before we wrap up, thinking about all the criticisms we discussed, which one, Gi-hun's arc, Jun-ho's story, the baby, the VIPs, or the ending overall, do you think was the biggest factor in that mixed audience reaction? Let us know below. Helps us understand what hit hardest.
Good question.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Squid Game Season 3. We really hope this helped untangle some of the discussion and paradoxes around it.
Hope it provided some clarity.
If you found this analysis helpful, maybe give it a like, consider subscribing for more deep dives like this, and maybe share with friends who are also debating Season 3.
And let us know what else you want us to tackle.
Definitely. What other shows, movies, cultural trends should we dive into next? Let us know. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay well informed.